Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it, and Biden was there, and Comey was there, and Clapper. The whole group was there. Brennan. They were all there in the room. Right here. This was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but it's okay. Nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room. That wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. If you look at those papers, they have it stone cold. And it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? Except for the fact he gets shielded by the press his entire life. That's the one they thought was guilty. I like to say, let's give it time. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did something nobody's ever imagined. Even in other countries. You've never seen anything like it, and we have all of the documents, and from what Tulsi told me, she has thousands of additional documents, coverage. So, President Obama, it was his concept, his idea. But he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton, crooked as a $3 bill. Hillary Clinton and her group, the Democrats, spent $12 million to write up a report that was a total fake report. Took 2 years to figure that out. But it came out. It was a total fake report. It was made up. Fiction. They used that. The one thing they weren't able to do, and probably the only thing I respect about the press in years, is the press refused to write it before the election. They refused to put it in. The Steele report was a disaster. All lies. All fabrication. An admitted fraud. She paid $12 million, and the Democrats, for that report, to a wise guy named Christopher Steele. He wrote a phony report, and they wanted to get that report in before the election. I talk about it all the time, the fake news, how bad it is, but in this case, they wouldn't do it. They saw it, they read it, and they said, we don't believe it. And it was only after, like, a month and a half after the election that it got printed. And it was just like a bang, nothing, because the election had ended. If that report had gotten published by the New York Times or somebody, and I respect the Times for maybe only this, because they are a crooked, corrupt paper, but for this one moment, they said, this is bullshit. We can't put this in. Wall Street Journal's a lousy paper. Very, very dishonest paper. As you see, I'm suing them for a lot of money, because they do things very badly. Got a nice name, but in my opinion, it's a terrible paper, and it can be corrupt. But just so you know, they didn't take the Steele report. It was the dossier. Remember the famous dossier? I call it the fake news dossier. 2.5 months. It was finished. That was supposed to be what was going to happen, and it got published a couple months after the election. And frankly, nobody cared too much about it. We caught Hillary Clinton. We caught Barack Hussein Obama. You have many people under them. Susan Rice. They are all there. The names are all there, and I guess they figured they're going to put this in classified information and nobody will ever see it again. But it doesn't work that way. It's the most unbelievable thing I think I've ever read. So you ought to take a look at that and stop talking about nonsense, because this is mixed up. Never has a thing like this happened in the history of our country. By the way, it morphed into the 2020 race, and the 2020 race was rigged, and it was a rigged election. Because it was rigged, we had millions of people in our country. We had inflation. We solved the inflation problem, but millions and millions of people came into our country because of that. And people that shouldn't have been, people from gangs, and from jails, and mental institutions, people that we don't want in our country. People we were getting out. Dangerous people. 11,888 murderers, many of them, 50% or more, murdered more than one person. I hate to say this to such a distinguished guest, but they asked me a question. I've got to answer the question. No, Barack Hussein Obama is the ringleader. Hillary Clinton was right there with them. And so was Sleepy Joe Biden. And so were the rest, Comey, the whole group. And they tried to rig an election, and they got caught. And then they did rig the election in 2020. because they knew I won the election. I won in a landslide. I won that all the same way in 2020. And look at the damage that was caused.